Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just a few reminders before we get started here. We're on KDOW 1220 AM on the radio. So if you want to tune in on the radio, it's 1220 on your AM dial, and you could listen to us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 to 4 Pacific Daylight Time. If you're out of the listening area, or if you're not near a radio, you can listen to us online. If you go to kdow.biz, that'll allow you to just click on that button that says Listen Live. You can listen to our show this time slot every day from 3 to 4. We're the only real estate related show broadcasting live in the entire Bay Area, and now for almost 8 years. Also, thank you for the Facebook followers. We are, unless we have some technical difficulties like we had yesterday, we'll be streaming live on Facebook during the show as well. So we welcome all those Facebook viewers in. If you have any questions, comments, you could do that. Lastly, more importantly, make sure you download the podcast. The reason for that is that not everybody has the luxury to listen to the show at this time of the day or Facebook. So the podcast will allow you to download, listen to it at your convenience whenever you can. You can go to iTunes and just type in Real Estate Radio Live, get the podcast there. You can also go to our website, reradiolive.com, and get the podcast at that location as well. Most of you know that the focus of the show for going on 8 years now is education and information. So what do I mean by that? My objective when I started the show was to continue to provide you, the consumer, education, information to make wise decisions in and around your real estate. It's pretty simple in all aspects of real estate. So we try to do that by having great guests like I have today. I'll invite Mr. Rossi in just a second. And then content and information, again, to provide you, the consumer. During the show, lastly, if you have any questions for me or my guest, 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220 if you have any questions for me or my guest. All right, I'm going to invite in our guest today who's with us for the entire hour. Mr. Dean Rossi is an attorney specializing in real estate and business litigation. Good to have you here, Dean.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to the interview and a lot of good information, especially in and around the real estate area. Before we get started, maybe you could share with our listeners, Dean, a little bit about your background and then your current roles and responsibilities with your firm today.
Sure. I'm a real estate and business litigator. I'm a lawyer, downtown San Jose. I've been practicing here for, about 20 years now, primarily focusing on real estate and business litigation. Well, so what does that mean? Real estate's huge, but in this market, residential real estate disputes are going strong.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked before about the market and what it's doing. So real estate is generally someone's primary investment here in Silicon Valley. So we get a lot of it.
Very good.
A lot of litigation.
Yeah. And you have a rich history and background. We were talking, your dad is in the business, started the business. Yeah. And so you have quite a family traditional tree here.
Right. My father is a real estate attorney in San Jose as well. He's been here since the 70s. And I think his father was a real estate broker in Millbrae for a number of years. My father's uncle was also the president of California Association of Realtors at one time. My sister's an agent as well, so it's a long, rich history of real estate. Some of us agents, some of us lawyers.
Yeah, right. Very good. Well, let's talk about a couple of different things. We're going to do that today. We're going to touch a couple of different issues, but one, I think primarily is, the contracts that consumers sign with real estate agents. I know they do a really good job at covering just about everything, disclosing everything. What are some of the things, though, that I guess what I'd like to find out from the consumer's perspective? Most of the time, let's face it, most of them just initial and sign. some people are really good and they'll say, let me take a couple hours to read through this. But
it's kind of like there are readers and there are non-readers,
yeah,
right? If you take that standard, say, California Association of Realtors form, there's two here in the Valley we use, and we also use the PRDS form here locally as well. If you take those two forms, and I think there's something like 8-point font or something very small, but if you really made it a 12-point font and you double spaced it, it's something like a 34-page contract. It's a legal document, and you hit the nail right on the head there. They do a great job of setting clearly out the paragraphs and what they say, but there's really no substitute for reading them. And candidly, every time, even though I've seen the form, probably I read it. I probably read it 10 times a day, a certain paragraph. I still read it from start to finish. There's different variations. They change year to year, and they change in the context in which our disputes are about. So I always start with, what does the contract really say? And I think as a consumer, to protect yourself, the most important thing you can really do is just read that contract from start to finish. I mean, obviously, 90% of the people are going to have a real estate professional, an agent or broker help them get through the contract. I see those really good brokers who hand that contract to their client in advance to say, hey, look, you're going to be buying a piece of property. Here's the contract we're going to be using. Start reading it now. Take your time. Ask me any questions you might have, and sort of educate the consumer of what they're going to get themselves into, because it is a legal document. Although, 90% of it is all pre-printed anyway. It's pre-printed language, and you plug in the purchase price and the names of the parties and the property address, but it's still a legal contract.
Are there any, as we're discussing the contract, Dean, are there any areas that you would say, listen, okay, to the consumer, there's a lot of stuff in there. Your broker should go through it with you. You should read it. But there are any things or any areas you might say, pay special attention to these 1 or 2 or 3 areas, or is it just you should try to understand it across the board?
You should try to understand it across the board, but I'd say, like right now, for example, if you're asking me what kind of disputes do we see every single day, we see what I call those non-disclosure or bad house cases where somebody buys something and they're not getting what they want. And in today's market in particular, what you're seeing, you're seeing a lot of buyers who are making non-contingent offers. And when you're making a non-contingent offer, you really have to know what those risks are. You're really kind of buying something without the ability to really take a good look at the property. And again, I think the median home price here in the Valley and the area is $1.2 million dollars, and yet you're making an offer on something, not getting a full chance to investigate it, and you're really relying upon the disclosures made by the seller, and you're really relying upon any inspection reports that the seller has provided to you, which has various pros and cons to it. But as a consumer, it's like buying a car without getting the opportunity to really test drive it. And yet you're spending $1.2 million on it.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal, and I think because we live in this valley and we've become jaded, I think, because of the multiple offers, and that's just the way the market is, and this is, I mean, you got to be careful. I mean, I'm on the financing side, so I see this all the time too. People coming to me saying, Joe, what should I do? And of course, I just bring them right back to, wait a minute now, take a deep breath and let's talk about this, because you're about ready to release all these contingencies or not even take them.
Right.
Because then now you're talking about the legal aspects and some of the disclosure stuff, but then there's the loan side. And what I mean by that is, you're about ready to, some people, finance $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 or $1 million. And now you're encumbering this property, so you have a lien on it.
Right.
And so now you kind of got double trouble potentially.
And what if you have a $400,000 foundation repair, right? I mean, see what that does to your value of your property, because you got to put that money into it to get it out.
Right.
Once you find that out, so there's a buyer's perspective, and there's a seller's perspective.
Sure.
And I think from the seller's perspective, who wouldn't want to get their property sold without the hassle of someone not releasing contingencies and not going forward? You see that, and there's certain things you can do as a seller. Me personally, I sold a home in 2005, and the height of the market back then. And what do you do? I'm receiving non-contingent offers. I'm a young guy. I'm happy to receive 6 offers on my house, and they're all non-contingent. I didn't even ask for it, right? So I harken back. Well, what do I do? Do I talk to my clients? What do I say to them? And I say, I countered. You can have 3 days. The first one was I countered with an accountant that says, the buyer is making an offer non-contingent, not not based on anything that I'm doing. But I counted 3 days to give that buyer the time to feel comfortable because, again, it comes down to expectations of what you're buying.
Yeah. We got a little less than 2 minutes for our first break. Would you advise or maybe suggest that, let's say someone's about ready or they're thinking, I love this property, I'm getting ready to make a non-contingent offer. Is that something that someone might bring to you and say, hey, Dean, what do you think? Or does it even make a difference?
Well, it makes a difference to me. I mean, I think as a real estate professional, a real estate agent, you have the obligation, it's a legal obligation to explain, counsel, advise the buyer, the principal of the ramifications of their decision and what it means. And the buyer has to make their own decision because we all know the practical ramification is you may not get the house if it's not non-contingent, but at least as the professional should be explaining what that means to you. Then you're taking that risk. And my clients come to me and say, hey, what should I do? I explain the risks. I say I personally wouldn't buy something without having that ability to take a look at it.
Right.
But then again, I realize I'm taking that risk. So then you're relying upon other things. You're relying upon the disclosures, which we've just mentioned, the disclosures by the seller.
Right.
And how complete are they? Are there clear explanations? Do the reports that you're receiving, if the seller, for example, has a home inspection report, what is the quality of that home inspection report? Is it a quality inspector? How clear is that report? How detailed is it? And you can't look at it in a vacuum. You should compare these two.
Yeah.
Compare the disclosure to the report to see if there's any inconsistencies.
Yeah, good point. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back in a couple minutes. So those on Facebook, stick with us. If you have any questions for Dean, the expert is in the studio today, 1-800-516-1220. Do you have any legal questions? Do you have any thoughts about a transaction? 1-800-516-1220. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back with the live portion of the show in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live with you 5 days a week. Today we have in studio Mr. Dean Rossi. He's an attorney specializing in real estate business, litigation. We're going to be continuing to discuss mostly about residential real estate and kind of the pitfalls, the ins and outs, some of the things to look for, red flags. If you have any questions for Dean or me on any of these topics or anything else, give us a call, 1-800-516-1220, or you could also text your question in 408-838-9060. Before we jump back in, I want to talk a little bit about an event that's coming up next week that actually Dean is part of too, right here.
Right.
It is going to be, it's called Refresh Mega Seminar, and it's so it's going to be quite a neat event. It's going to be held at the Campbell Community Center, and it is on Thursday, January 11th from 1:30 to 3:30. So Dean, you're going to be talking a little bit about what when you're going to kick things off here on that event?
Yeah, we're going to talk about real estate, what's happening, hot topics in the market, and again, some of the things we're covering here, but hot topics. It's going to be geared a lot more towards real estate agents and how to sort of stay, for me, I mean, who wants to see a lawyer?
That's good. That's good.
How to avoid Dean Rossi.
The best form of deodorants.
Right.
And then actually Dean's brother David's going to speak, a motivational speaker, an incredible transformation of what he's done in his personal life and business life. He's going to talk a little bit. And then Tanya Cheater is going to talk a little bit on the title side. And I think they also have someone that's going to be doing some personal image or refresh your image. But anyway, it's going to be a good, fun event, very informational. It's free, no cost at all. If you want more information, there's a couple different things you could do. You can contact Dave at 408-888-2571. And that's probably the best thing. Again, if you want information, if you want to come to the seminar, they'd love to have you. It's close. It's in Campbell. It's free. You're going to get a lot of good information and some good insight. Contact Dave Rossi at 408-888-2571 for more information. Again, that's next Thursday, a week from today, January 11th, from 1:30 to 3:32. So it's a quick 2 hours, and it should be some good information. So we'll jump back into the conversation. Speaking of real estate, I want to talk first, I guess, a little bit about Piggytail. When we were just finishing up on some of the disclosures, some of the things you see, people making non-contingent offers. What is your thought? We talked a little bit when we were in between break too on the for sale by owners. I mean, this to me, in my opinion, I shared. I think it's a mistake. It's a huge transaction. There's a tremendous amount of liability. No one knows more than you.
Right.
What are your thoughts on? And it's a small percentage to begin with. I think it's less than 8% of people that do the for sale by owner. For someone that's out there, Dean, that's thinking about it, what would you advise them about that?
Well, I'm a real estate professional. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't do it. There's no way I would do it. You don't see a lot of it, but listen, real estate agents are hired for their professional knowledge and skill.
Right.
And they know enough to know, hey, you need to talk to someone about a roof. You need to talk to someone about a foundation. You need to talk to someone about financing. There's a title issue or an easement. Certain documents are required. For example, we're going to talk about the transfer disclosure statement or TDS,
right.
Making sure you have those forms and kind of walking somebody through the transaction. Real estate agents, just like I have to my clients, owe a fiduciary duty to their clients and to put them first, to look out for their best interests, to counsel and advise and explain to them the ramifications of their decision and what's going on. They have to put their own... So they put themselves in the shoes of the principal to decide, hey, what questions do I need to ask myself to help my principal? If you don't have that, well, I think it's just, listen, it's good for me, I guess, because you might come see me. Did you get my number out there? So
I am going to get your number out there. By the way, while we're doing that, what is the best place to contact you for someone that has questions or might need your services? Or because you guys do, maybe you could also remind them the different practices that your office does provide.
Sure. At Ventura Rossi, we primarily do real estate and business litigation. Okay. We also do construction litigation. We do a little bit of employment law. When you talk about real estate, it involves a huge area. We
True.
Big spectrum. Anything from commercial to real estate litigation, reviewing leases, landlord-tenant disputes.
Oh, okay.
Essentially anything involving real estate and construction we can do. So we're small enough where we can spread the wealth a little bit and rely upon each other. We're not a huge firm. We like to keep it small and simple, and that way we don't do a lot of we don't do IP work, for example,
Got it.
or
Okay.
personal injury. For example.
See. What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, just my name, letter D for Dean, D Rossi at Ventura, VENTURA Rossi.com, D Rossi at Ventura Rossi.
Go to your website. They could contact you in different ways. Yeah, so I would advise if you're listening to the show, either live, of course, or podcast, if you need any kind of advice at all in any of these areas that Dean talked about, give them a call, give their firm a call. I'm a big believer, if those have been following the show for almost 8 years, aligning yourself with a team of professionals that could help you in every aspect of real estate. In this case, Dean and his team could help if something comes up. And actually, I would say, and I'm not going to put words in Dean's mouth, but in some cases, even if you're getting ready to get into something potentially that makes you nervous, that would be the time that you contact Dean in his office before, right? I mean, so
right.
even if you're thinking, I don't know if I should do this or not.
It's kind of like you see those cases, you probably see this a lot when someone's buying a piece of property, they ask themselves if they're going to spend $1.1 million on a house, which is the average, are they going to spend $250 on a roof report?
Yeah.
And you ask yourself, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I think an ounce of prevention saves you the headache downstream, and I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about, go back to the contract. I know one of the things I hear a lot, Dean, is with the non-contingent offers, and Joe, what if something comes up and boy, all of a sudden the inspection, something popped up, we're nervous about it. Their deposit. This comes up a lot. So is my deposit at risk? And I know that's kind of just a moving target, but talk a little bit about the concept of the deposit, when people could potentially lose it, and how that works.
Yeah, this contract has a provision called the liquidated damage provision.
Okay.
And essentially what it says is if 3%, if for example, the buyer decides to not go forward with the contract and the buyer is in breach of contract, the seller has the ability to go after the buyer's deposit.
Okay.
Up to 3%. And as long as it's deposited in escrow, and as long as the initials on the liquidated damage provision is initialed by both parties.
Okay.
And it's not a sure thing. I mean, oftentimes I have someone come in to say, hey, the buyer breached. Do I get the deposit? Give it to me right now. And that's not really the law. Most people think that. They breach, I get the deposit. Right. So the law is not set up to allow a seller to get a windfall. The seller then has to go market the property and try to remarket it and try to sell it. And obviously, the whole purpose of liquidated damages and that deposit is because damages are uncertain if what a seller has to go through. For example, restage the property, take time. All those things are difficult to determine, so that's kind of the predetermined amount is 3%. But then you have to remarket it and see what happens. If you sell it for much, much more, which could happen in this market, then there's an opportunity to say, hey, listen, the buyer says, wait a minute, you sold it for, my deposit was $45,000, you sold it for $90,000 more, give it back to me.
Yeah.
So there's no sure thing, if you will.
Okay. We have a minute or so left before we take our next break. When I come back, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I think it's dual agency, a little bit about what the potential pitfalls are. I know there's some people play both sides of the fence, like it's okay if we represent both the buyer and seller, but then some people would say, whoa, I don't want to be anywhere near that because of the potential, who are you really representing type of stuff, right?
I wish I could do it. Could I do the defendant and the plaintiff at the same time, or it's like being the all-time quarterback?
Yeah, there you go.
Garoppolo could be both for the offense and sides, right?
Jump around. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we come back, but I'll hold that. So we're going to take a break. Again, if you have any questions for Dean, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about dual agency and what does it mean. And there's some people, again, that say it's not a problem and there's reasons why you should do it, and there's others that will stay way away from it. Real quickly before we duck out to the event, if you're interested, the event that's taking place Thursday, 1:30 to 3:30, you contact Dave at 408-888-2571. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back with you to continue in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast, your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, sitting here in studio with Dean Rossi, as an attorney specializing in real estate and business litigation. For those streaming live on Facebook, thank you again for following us. We appreciate that very much. Again, just a reminder, download the podcast at reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Continue to follow us, share us with your family, friends, coworkers. We'll continue to hopefully educate you and have great guests like we do today with Dean. We're talking a little bit about contracts specifically now. I'm going to have Dean talk a little bit about disclosures, and then from there, I guess we could jump into this dual agency and talk a little bit of how that may affect some people.
Right. I think 80% of the litigation that walks into my office, you usually have someone upset about the property they purchased, or they're getting a claim from a buyer saying, hey, someone's saying I didn't disclose.
Okay.
And so it's common, and especially in these non-contingent offers, I think, when you talk about what people are looking for, they have certain expectations. They buy something, and it's not what they bought. They get upset, and then they hire me, and then they pay me, and I get upset. Right. So I think at the end of the day, the disclosures are probably the number one concern I have for both sellers and buyers, both to fill out and then to review.
Okay.
So if you're a seller, I always say stay away from adjectives, because I don't know what a minor ponding means, or a little leak, or things of that nature. What is it? So you want to say, I say, just the facts, ma'am. There's a leak, and call it out.
I see.
A lot of sellers think, hey, this is an as-is purchase. I don't have to tell everything. That's not the case. You have to tell all. Yeah. The rule for a seller is disclose, disclose, because, and especially in a non-contingent situation, the two documents that are going to be reviewed critically by the buyer's agent and the buyer are going to be the transfer disclosure statement and the supplemental to that, which is a lot more detailed, probably 8 pages. And it says, are you aware of a certain condition? There's a yes or a no box, and then the explain box. I can't tell you how much litigation I get when there's a box that's checked yes, and then there's no explanation. So what does that tell me? It tells me, 1, the seller didn't fill it out properly. 2, the seller's real estate agent, when they reviewed it, didn't catch it and say, hey, what do you mean there was a landslide? Where was the landslide? Right. When was the landslide? What happened? How much did it cost to repair? Are there any reports? All of that who, what, when, where, why. A real estate agent for the seller has a duty of inquiry. Inquiry, in my opinion, means the who, what, when, where, why. When did it happen? Where did it happen? What happened? And then you have the buyer and the buyer's agent who get a box that's checked yes. For example, there was a prior landslide, but no explanation. And so now a buyer's buying this property with no contingencies, and reviewing these things, and then they find out, well, the landslide needs major work. The fix was just a Band-Aid repair, and they can't add on to the property until they do this major work. And then you have a lawsuit, and then you have the real estate agents involved, which can bring in dual agency. Because if an agency is tested at the broker level, and despite the fact you may have different individual agents, if they're both with the same brokerage company, then they have exposure either way. So it really gets complicated. So I think a lot of people I may not have a job, for example, if people really just spent the time to fill out those disclosures properly, and also to review them critically and not in a vacuum with the inspection reports. I get inspection reports I read as well, where the inspector really sort of does a haphazard job. I've had cases where inspectors have written the seller that says, listen, please hire me. I'm a pro seller inspector. I try to write, this is no joke. This is a letter.
Seriously?
I try to write things not to overly alarm buyers.
Oh my God.
To make the transaction go through. So here you have an inspector who's trying to get business from the seller side, and is trying not to overly alarm buyers. Again, more litigation. So I find that, 1, disclose if you're the seller, and if you're and stay away from adjectives. If you're the real estate agent, make sure you inquire, you inquire, and if you're the buyer, read it. Yeah. Ask questions.
Right. So I'm assuming by listening to you, are you saying that majority of these problems of the business that comes to you is because real estate agents haven't completed it properly, or conveyed or communicated stuff properly, or is it the consumer felt like they didn't get it? I mean, what?
I try to think the best of people. Obviously, some people are going to hide the truth. They don't want to talk about the roof leak that happened. I think oftentimes they just forget. You know, it was 10 years ago, it was 5 years ago, it was 3 years ago,
right.
we fixed it. The problem is sometimes those things aren't fixed. And if you think about it, behind this wall right here, we have a wall. The home inspector is not going to know what's behind the wall.
Right.
The seller's going to know because the seller put the sheetrock and fixed it. So it's important for the buyer to know what happened, to get the history of the property, where a home inspector is not going to have that information. And then on the other side, you have these buyers who aren't reading the things like they should. We talked at the top of when we first started here, they just sign here, and they're not really spending the time because they have an obligation to also read the document and see what's there and know what they're purchasing. That's really important. And to ask questions. Wait a minute. What is this box isn't checked? Where is the landslide? Or where is the roof leak? Or and these types of disputes, I call them these bad house cases or these non-disclosure cases, are literally 80% of my practice. People come in the door and, you know, I bought this, and I have one recently. I bought this, and my house is infested with ants. How did the seller not know there were ants everywhere? I mean, as minor as that, and as huge as things of like, you know, the foundation's cracking. Right.
What about the one that comes up? I know a lot of people automatically kind of, you know, turn their head and say, "Don't say that word." The whole mold thing, right?
Right, mold. Right. I mean, the medical issues of mold. I'm not sure what's happening in the personal injury field anymore. There were some issues of what mold causes, but mold does cause damage to your home. Obviously, it's not good for you. For me personally, I wouldn't want to live in a moldy home. And mold, you know, it's usually related to water. There's water penetration, lack of ventilation. Therefore, it needs some sort of cellulose debris like wood or sheetrock to grab onto. But you know, it's a big problem, and there's companies that come out and clean it up. You have to determine, you know, they do the negative air, and they come up and clean up and determine whether it's toxic mold or not. But obviously it affects the value of your home, and that's what's so important for these buyers. If you find this condition, for example, like mold, there was black mold in my house, and then they may repair it, but when they sell it, that seller has to disclose it, and then they get upset at their seller, previous seller, for not telling them about the mold.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. We got a couple minutes left in this segment. Let's jump in and talk a little bit about this dual agency. I mean, I haven't taken a formal survey, but most of the real estate agents I work with say, Joe, I try to stay away from it. There are some that actually advocate, some that like it, of course, you know, for obvious reasons, right? You're going to make more money, but what are your thoughts in general about that?
You know, I joke a lot that real estate agents are really good at one thing, and that's calculating 3% of any number, and therefore they can calculate 6%. So why not make 6%?
Multiples,
right? So I mean, obviously on the real estate side, real estate agents would love to make 6%. The problem is, and we talked about it before the break, is how can you play for both sides? And the law says, except for what the seller is willing to pay and except what the buyer is willing to purchase for, everything else has to be disclosed by and between the buyer and the seller. So the real estate agents really put in the middle of, who do I represent? Now, our California legislature allows dual agency. For real estate agents. For example, they have real estate agents owe fiduciary duties to the clients, just like I do as an attorney, but I can't do it. I can't represent both the plaintiff and the defendant in a lawsuit for obvious reasons. So it puts the real estate agent in a very difficult situation, and I think most people want to stay away from it. A lot of real estate agents think, well, look, I'm just going to refer it to my friend in my office.
They get
and
that
therefore
a lot,
I'm not a dual agent. Well, that's not true.
That's not.
No.
That's interesting.
Legally, agency is tested at the broker level. So if they both work for the same company, they're a dual agent. And the law also can impose knowledge, whatever one broker knows, by a whether factually, if the seller's agent knows something, whether factually the buyer's agent doesn't know it, the law will impute that knowledge. So it creates some liability on the fact of brokerage firms. Candidly, I drool when I hear dual agency. As a lawyer, okay, someone's in trouble. They're dual agents. So it's difficult for real estate agents to be both the buyer, the buyer's agent, and the seller's agent.
Why would this is a more complicated question maybe for another time, but do you suppose because it's such a strong lobbying body in general, the Department or the National Association of Realtors, you used a good example of an attorney can't do that. Why in the world would that be the case that real estate agents can? Do you have any?
I'm assuming because it's a strong lobby. And you're not really, you're not in the court system per se.
I'm
in a court system and the
That's
justice system
true.
representing one side over the other, and there's obviously
I
rights to juries and things of that nature to a jury trial. But that's probably why.
Got it. All right. Well, a minute left. We're going to get started and to kind of finish up. Quickly, any stories? We'll come back. We can tell another one that brings you to mind that just is a typical that you see come in across the desk that I can't believe this happened again.
What I can't see, but what I see a lot is people not being able to fill out the forms correctly.
Okay, so that's the biggest thing. That's
like literally when you see a close of escrow date and the agent says it says next Tuesday.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Right.
All right, we're going to take our last break. We're going to come back and we continue. If you have any questions for Dean, now's the time to do it. We have one more segment coming, 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. If you have any questions, we'll be back in just a couple minutes to finish up the show.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we wind down the show. Just a few minutes left. If you have any questions, 1-800-516-1220. For those, again, watching on Facebook, thank you for those sharing more information. Be sure to download the podcast at reradiolive.com. We're with Dean Rossi and talking about real estate, litigation, some issues around contracts specifically, disclosures, things to watch out for, red flags, a number of different things. So I want to close out. Before we jump in and kind of close out, again, Dean, if someone wants to reach your firm and they want more information on how you might be able to help them, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, reach me at my email address at drossi, the letter D, R-O-S-S-I, at Ventura, V-E-N-T-U-R-A, Rossi.com.
Very good.
Rossi at Ventura Rossi.
And of course, if you're listening to this show and you don't get that information, you could always, I have people do this all the time, podcast, or just give me a call. I'll get people that call all the time or email and say, Joe, that guest you had, or I want to, ask them information or get their services. So you could always do that as well. So in a couple of minutes we have left before we close out, Dean, disclosures, super, super important, kind of just to summarize, keep an eye on that. I would think also if you're nervous or concerned about something, ask questions. If you're uncomfortable, I don't know if you've ever had this. I just thought about this. Has anybody ever come to you and said, God, Dean, when I was filling that out, the real estate agent just kind of, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Just sign here, sign. Does that ever came up or?
It comes up quite a bit now with DocuSign, for example.
Oh, okay.
Because you get that DocuSign where it says you just get the computer program. It says sign here, sign here, sign here. And I think that the potential is there for a problem because it tells me, for example, before we saw those stickers that said sign here or was highlighted that said sign here, Now it's the DocuSign. It tells me as a real estate lawyer that the agent may not be reviewing the contract with them and going through the disclosure. They're just saying sign here.
I see.
And so I asked the question, I mean, how long did your agent spend with you to review the contract? Well, not much time at all. They just had me sign here. Well, they didn't review with you the highlights? No, I didn't spend much time. I mean, I can tell you when I bought a house, even though I'm a real estate lawyer, my real estate agent was smart enough to say, I'm still going to sit down and review this with him.
Sure.
I'm still going to make sure he understands what's going on because every contract's different. There's contingencies and purchase price and deposit and things of that nature and loan contingencies and appraisal and what that means. So I think sitting down and with your real estate agent and having a conversation, the real estate agents, in this valley we have some very qualified real estate agents who really, really know their stuff and can spend the time to answer your questions. If they don't have that information, oftentimes the agents will say, listen, let's go talk to a lawyer. I don't know whether you should sign the liquidated damage provision or not, or the arbitration provision. Let's come in and see Dean. They spend an hour and meet with me, and they feel more comfortable. We talked a little bit about the advisories. For example, the CAR form has that buyer's advisory. PRDS has a similar advisory. And it's a great checklist. I use it as a checklist because obviously, there's some issues that aren't going to be applicable to certain homes, certain areas. But it's a checklist of all the things that you can do as a buyer to protect yourself. Hey, listen, is Megan's Law, for example. I can't tell you how many people don't go on meganslaw.com to see if there's predators in the area. That's listed on there. Is there environmental issues? Do I live near someplace that has environmental issues? All of those things are on there for you to do some investigation on if you want to, if you choose to. And I think it's a great checklist. And for real estate agents, hey, look, this issue doesn't apply. Should my buyers be aware of school districts? It may happen in some areas, some cities. The school district and where you are, what side of the street you're on may be more important for value and more important for your kids. So it's a great checklist for people to sort of use to see what issues are important to you.
Okay.
Right.
Very good. And I know you're an advocate of the team, trusting people, and I talk about it all the time on this show. These are too big of financial decisions to give by chance or to hire someone that's just doing it on a weekend. And no offense to part-time realtors or lenders or whatever, because people are trying to make a living. That's not my intent. But my point is, give the consumers your thought about when you get ready to make decisions like this, hire the right team and trustworthy people, but people not only you trust, but that are competent to get this job done.
There's an old saying: you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, you want to hire a team who's competent to get you through the transaction. Again, in real estate today in Silicon Valley, it is usually someone's number one investment. Yeah. It's the number one investment. They're investing a lot of money into this house, and they're sometimes making it without contingencies, without really taking a look. So you better have a good team around you to help you with reviewing the contract, reviewing the disclosures, also with a loan. Do I have the right product?
Right.
How's it going to help me? What else do I need? I mean, oftentimes really good real estate agents will use the same inspector over and over and over again, and they get the best home inspector or the best pest control operator to really help them make sure they get a good, clean look at the property to make sure they know what they're buying. We talked a little bit about it. A lot of it's about expectations.
Right.
Did I get what I bought? And then if you buy it, hey, listen, I knew the roof leaked. The seller told me. It's kind of hard to come back to me and say, hey, I'm complaining to the seller for not telling me about the roof leak when I knew about it and I chose not to do it. Or, hey, I knew about it, I chose to do it anyway. Yeah.
Now, good point. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Just before I do, again, I have a quick reminder. If you want to attend this event, it's called Refresh Mega Seminar. And Dean's going to kick it off. He's going to be there at 1:30. It's from 1:30 to 3:30. And then he's going to be followed by his brother, who's a motivational speaker and a transformation. Great. You want to listen to Dave. Tanya's going to speak a little bit. And it's a 2-hour seminar. It'd be great to attend. It's free. It's at the Campbell Community Center. For more information, you contact Dave at 408-888-2571. Dean, thanks. It's a good show.
You.
We'll have you back on a regular basis and kind of check in, see how things are going.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you those for tuning in at Facebook and on the radio, and Leslie on the podcast. Take care. Until next time. Again, more information, go to reradiolive.com. Have a great afternoon. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Tune in, log in, download our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com. RERadiolive.com.